Most men have no clue how women fall in love. They think it's about flowers, fancy dates, or saying the perfect thing. But the truth, love doesn't begin when she feels safe. It begins when she feels something she can't control. It's not logic. It's not timing. It's energy. It's when a woman meets a man who doesn't chase her, doesn't explain himself, doesn't fall over himself trying to impress. A man who lives in his frame, who brings silence instead of apologies, presence instead of pressure. That's when she starts falling and she doesn't even know why. And once you understand the sequence, the real psychological and emotional steps, you won't just attract women, you'll change how they see you forever. This isn't about tricks. This is about truth. If you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding what really makes a woman fall hard, stick around. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button because I don't make content for men who play it safe. I make content for men becoming untouchable. Now, let's get into it. Here's exactly how women fall in love. Number 1, she falls for the one. She falls for the man who doesn't need her. Man who doesn't need her. That sounds backward, right? Most men are taught to be the nice guy, always available, always texting back fast, always making her feel like she's the center of his world, and they wonder why she pulls away. Let me break it to you. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man who puts her on a pedestal. She falls for the man who's already fulfilled, the man who's building something, the man who doesn't chase because he's too focused on his mission. And no, this doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means you're selective, discerning, centered. Here's what most guys don't get. When you don't need her, you become exactly the man she wants. Neediness repels. Independence attracts every time. She might say she wants attention, validation, reassurance. And yes, to some degree she does. But deeper than that, she wants to feel your gravity. She wants to be pulled into your orbit, not because you need her, but because you're already moving forward with or without her. Think about it. Who's more attractive? The man who's constantly asking, "Do you like me?" Or the one who barely says a word, but walks with quiet confidence like he's already whole? Women don't want to complete you. They want to join a man who's already complete. That's why the guy who's constantly chasing, constantly checking in, constantly proving himself gets left on red. But the guy who's calm, grounded, slightly detached, that's the one she thinks about when she's lying in bed at night because there's something she hasn't cracked yet, and that's the spark of obsession. In psychology, this is tied to status and perceived value. Humans instinctively want what appears high value and hard to get. If you're always available, always eager, always accommodating, it signals scarcity, not strength. But when you're grounded in your purpose, when your focus is on your goals, your peace, your discipline, it communicates value. And more importantly, it invites curiosity. She starts wondering, what's he thinking about? Why doesn't he chase me like other guys? What's going on in his life that he's not always texting? That's when she leans in. That's when she starts to invest. Stoic philosophy is built around this exact strength. It teaches us to master ourselves, not others. To remain steady, whether we're praised or ignored. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And nothing is braver or freer than a man who doesn't fear losing a woman because he's already chosen to never lose himself. If she becomes the center of your universe, you become small. But when your universe is vast, full of mission, challenge, meaning, and she wants to orbit that world, now she's emotionally invested. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine two men, man. A meets a woman he likes. He clears his schedule, drops his gym routine, stops seeing his friends. He responds immediately, gives long explanations, and constantly asks if she's happy. Man B also meets a woman he likes, but he keeps his priorities straight. He doesn't shift his focus. He gives her space. He lets her wonder where he stands. Guess which man triggers her emotions? The second one. Every time. Because love isn't about availability. It's about energy. It's about polarity. Masculine stillness draws in feminine movement. So, here's your move. Let go of the need to be needed. Build a life that excites you. Commit to your physical, mental, and spiritual growth. Let her witness your strength, not because you told her, but because you showed her. And if she walks away, you let her. Because you're not here to beg for attention. You're here to live fully and attract those who align with that frequency. If you've ever felt the difference between being needy and being centered, drop it in the comments. I've seen this. And stick around because in the next part, we're going deeper into how emotional tension builds attraction like nothing else. Number 2, emotional tension pulls her to. Emotional tension pulls her in. Let's get one thing straight. Love doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in tension. Emotional tension. The spark that keeps her guessing, wondering, reaching. Most guys try to create comfort too fast. They overshare, over-validate, try to prove themselves by being an emotional open book. But here's the paradox most men never learn. When she always knows how you feel, she stops caring about how you feel. Think about it. If she knows your next move, your next compliment, your next message, there's nothing to be excited about. There's no charge, no pull, no edge. But when there's emotional tension, when she doesn't know exactly where she stands, when your energy isn't predictable, that's when attraction spikes. We're not talking about manipulation here. We're talking about polarity. That masculine stillness, that emotional self-control, that silent awareness, it's like a gravitational field. She leans into it, not because you're withholding, but because you're not needing. And that gap between what she feels and what she can't fully define, that's where her mind starts running wild. That's where desire lives. Let's be real. Most relationships lose their fire, not because people fall out of love, but because all the mystery disappears. She knew too soon how much you needed her. You confessed everything. You texted long essays. You rushed to say, "I love you." Now it's all flat. Why? Because there's no emotional tension. Here's a visual that might help. Imagine a guitar string. If it's too loose, it doesn't make a sound. If it's too tight, it snaps. But with the right amount of tension, it sings. That's what emotional tension is in a relationship. Not chaos, not anxiety, but just enough uncertainty to keep the connection alive. In psychology, this is connected to intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. When affection or attention is given in unpredictable patterns, the brain attaches more meaning to it. So, if you're always pouring emotion into her, always texting first, always checking in when she pulls away, you become predictable. And predictable is emotionally dead. Instead, let there be space, silence, a little friction. If she's short with you, don't rush to smooth it over. If she pulls back, don't chase. If she challenges you, hold your ground, calm, grounded, unbothered. That calm response, that still frame, it builds the exact tension that keeps her craving your presence. Stoic philosophy thrives on this energy. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listen, observe, let her reveal herself, and don't rush to fix what doesn't need fixing. Because when you stay centered, when you don't spill your emotions, every time something shifts, she feels that containment, she feels that discipline, and whether she admits it or not, it turns her on. Let me give you a real example. A guy I coached had just started seeing a woman he really liked. She was fun, flirty, but after a few amazing dates, she went cold. He panicked, started double texting, sending long emotional messages, trying to clear the air. It only pushed her further away. I told him to pull back. No explanation, no chase, just space. 2 days later, she texts, Hey, I've been thinking about you. Why? Because the emotional tension returned. She didn't know what he was feeling. She had to wonder. And that wonder created re-engagement. That's the game most men miss. You don't need to be cold, but you do need to be stable. And stability doesn't mean emotional transparency 24/7. It means you choose what you reveal. And when you hold space, you don't rush to be understood. You let the moment unfold. That tension, it makes her lean in. So, if you've ever seen this happen, if you pulled back and she suddenly got closer, drop it in the comments. I felt that tension. And don't go anywhere because up next, we're diving into the power of mystery and why it's the key to triggering lasting attraction. Number 3, mystery triggers. 3. Mystery triggers obsession. Obsession. Let me ask you something who's more exciting. The man who tells her everything about himself in the first week, or the one she can't quite figure out exactly. Mystery is the secret ingredient that makes her come back again and again. Not because you're giving her answers, but because you're not. When a man is a complete open book, there's no tension, no curiosity, no spark of wonder. But when you're composed, when you're reserved, when you let her feel you but not completely know you, that's when obsession begins. It's like a movie with just enough suspense. She can't stop watching. She needs to know what happens next. And that's where most guys mess it up. They overshare. They spill their emotions too early. They explain their intentions in long, needy paragraphs. They want her to understand them, not realizing that what she feels matters more than what she knows. Let me make it simple. Certainty is comfortable. Mystery is magnetic. The moment she fully understands you before she's earned that depth, her interest fades. But if you hold just enough back, if you let her see glimpses without giving her the full picture, she'll keep coming back trying to figure you out. Because now it's not about you. It's about her experience of you and the puzzle you become. In fact, this is rooted in both psychology and Stoicism. In psychology, the Zeigarnik effect explains why people remember unfinished experiences more than completed ones. When you leave emotional gaps, her mind fills in the blanks. And that blank space, it's what drives her obsession. She starts thinking, does he like me? Why hasn't he opened up more? Why do I feel so drawn to him even though I barely know him? That mental tension becomes emotional investment. Now, in Stoic thought, mystery isn't about manipulation. It's about mastery. The Stoics believed in inner reserve, not spilling your emotions everywhere, but choosing when and how to reveal yourself. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Don't tell her how deep you are, live it. Let your actions and presence speak louder than your stories. You don't need to dump your trauma or goals or insecurities on her in week 1. Let her earn access to your world. Let her wonder what you're about. Let her chase understanding instead of sitting back while you deliver. Because obsession isn't created when she has you. It's created when she can't quite reach you. Let me give you a real example. A guy I worked with used to unload everything on the first date. His childhood, his fears, his dreams, his past heartbreaks. He thought he was being emotionally open. What he was actually doing was killing any sense of tension or discovery. We flipped the script. He started asking more than answering. He gave shorter replies. Let silences stretch, focused on being present instead of performative. And guess what? His next date. The woman texted after, I don't know why, but I can't stop thinking about you because she didn't have him fully figured out. And that feeling, that's the beginning of obsession. Here's what to do. Don't always give the full answer. Speak with intention, not excess. Ask good questions and let her talk. Hold eye contact, but don't rush to explain your energy. Let your vibe be felt more than your story be told. Mystery isn't about being shady or fake. It's about being selective, private, secure in your identity. And nothing makes a woman more curious than a man who feels like there's more under the surface, but doesn't hand it all over on a silver platter. So if you've ever seen a woman pull back after you overshared or seen her lean in when you kept a little distance, drop it in the comments. I've seen mystery work. And stay close because next we're breaking down how masculine calm is what actually breaks her emotional walls down. Number 4. Masculine calm breaks her walls. Masculine calm breaks her walls. Let me tell you something most men never realize. It's not your words that make her open up. It's your presence and, more specifically, your calm. Women are emotional creatures. That's not a criticism. It's biology. They feel everything intensely. Their minds can race. Their moods can swing. And deep down, what they're often searching for is safety. Not the kind of safety where you throw money at problems. Not the kind of safety where you tell her it's going to be okay. I'm talking about energetic safety. The kind that says, without speaking, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not shaken. I'm not rattled by your storm. Most men meet her chaos with more chaos. She gets emotional and he gets defensive. She tests him and he snaps. She pulls back and he panics. And just like that, her walls go right back up. But when you bring stillness, when your nervous system stays regulated, when your voice stays low, when your eyes stay soft but focused, she melts. Because in your calm, she feels something rare. Containment. You become the strong frame her emotions can exist within. You don't suppress her feelings. You hold space for them. You don't try to fix her. You stay steady while she works it out. And that's where trust is born. Not from promises, but from presence. This is where Stoicism becomes your superpower. Stoic men are not emotionless. They're emotionally disciplined. They don't let feelings control behavior. They observe emotion and act from principle. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, it's not what she says or does, it's how you choose to interpret it. Let's say she comes at you hot, accusations, mood swings, sarcasm. What most guys do, they react, they argue, they fall into emotional chaos with her. But the Stoic man stays composed, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. He doesn't need to dominate the conversation. He doesn't need to prove anything. He listens, he breathes, and when he speaks, it's measured. That energy, that's what breaks her walls. Because most of her life, she's been around men who are either too soft or too aggressive. But when she meets a man who can take her intensity and still stay grounded, that's when she feels truly seen. Let me give you a real-life situation. A woman I spoke with once said this about the man she eventually fell in love with. It wasn't that he said the right thing. It's that I could fall apart in front of him and he didn't flinch. That's what calm does. It invites vulnerability, not by asking for it, but by earning it through stability. So, how do you cultivate this calm? Start by getting control of your breath. Slow, deep breathing tells your body and hers that you're safe. Drop your shoulders. Relax your jaw. Lower your voice. These tiny physical cues change everything. They create an atmosphere where tension diffuses and connection deepens. Another thing, stop interrupting silence. Most guys get uncomfortable with quiet. They rush to fill it with jokes, comments, explanations. But silence is power. It gives her space to feel, to think, to trust. And finally, drop the need to always be right. Sometimes just being present is the highest form of strength, because the man who doesn't need to win the argument is the man who's already won her respect. So if you've ever watched her soften when you stayed calm instead of reacting, drop it in the comments. I felt that shift. And don't miss what's next, because up next we're talking about how space, not attention, makes her chase. Number 5, she bonds through earned intimacy. Let me say 5. She bonds through earned intimacy. something that might surprise you. A woman doesn't truly bond through physical closeness. She bonds through emotional respect, and that respect isn't handed out for free, it's earned. You see, men often confuse access with connection. Just because she opens up physically doesn't mean she's opened up emotionally. Real intimacy, deep, lasting, soul-wisting intimacy only happens when she feels she's earned a space in your world, not when you gave it away instantly, not when you poured your whole story out after 3 dates, not when you made her your emotional center before she showed she could handle that weight. Let me put it this way. The more easily intimacy is given, the less powerful it becomes. We live in a world of oversharing. Everyone's broadcasting their thoughts, feelings, and traumas online. But true connection that happens in private, in moments that are built, not rushed. And that's exactly what women crave. But rarely find a man who chooses who he opens up to instead of bleeding emotionally for anyone who listens. That's where bonding begins. When you as a man are slow to open, but intentional when you do. When you give her layers, not all at once, but over time, she feels like she's discovering something real, something valuable, and something exclusive. Psychologically, this taps into the investment bias. People value what they have to work for. When intimacy is earned, it carries more emotional weight, more meaning, more permanence. Now, here's where most guys mess this up. They think vulnerability means dumping their pain early. They think being honest means constantly explaining themselves. They think closeness comes from exposure. But here's the truth. Vulnerability without boundaries isn't intimacy. It's insecurity. Real vulnerability happens when the timing is right, when the trust has been built, when you reveal something not because you want approval, but because she's earned a piece of your inner world. Think of it like this. Imagine your life as a kingdom. Most guys throw open the gates. They hand over the keys. They say, "Here, take everything." But the Stoic man, he guards the gate, not from fear, but from self-worth. He knows not everyone deserves access. And when someone earns that access, it means something. That's how bonding is built. Women aren't looking for emotional chaos. They're not asking you to be broken so they can fix you. What they want is to feel chosen. Chosen for a deeper layer of you. And only after they've proven they won't weaponize it. There's a Stoic principle here too. Temperance. It means moderation, discipline. Not overgiving, not overeating, not oversharing. It's knowing the right amount of anything at the right time. So, how do you apply this? Start by slowing down. When she asks about your past, give her enough to be real, but not everything at once. When she opens up emotionally, listen deeply, but don't feel pressure to match her immediately. Let your depth unfold in layers, not bursts. And most importantly, don't chase closeness. Let it rise organically. Because when she feels like she earned your inner world, that's when she bonds. That's when she says, "I feel safe with you even when you're quiet." That's when real intimacy begins. Let me give you a real-life example. A man I worked with used to overshare on first dates. He wanted to be real. He thought that would show emotional intelligence. But every time, women pulled away until he learned to wait, to hold back, not from fear, but from value. Now women chase his attention. They feel honored when he opens up because it means something. If you've ever experienced the power of earned connection, drop it in the comments. I felt that shift. And don't go anywhere because up next, we're unlocking the surprising way her deepest desire gets activated when you give her space. Number 6, confidence without validation makes her chase. Here's a 6. Confidence without validation makes her chase. Truth most men don't want to admit. If your confidence needs to be seen, it's not real, and women can sense that instantly. You see, what pulls her in isn't loud arrogance, it's quiet certainty, not just confidence, but confidence without the need for her to approve it. That's the kind of presence that makes her lean in, that makes her watch you study. You wonder about you because you're not giving her the validation she's used to getting. Think about it. Most guys meet a beautiful woman and immediately go into performance mode. Compliments, validation, constant attention, trying to impress, trying to prove, trying to be chosen. But the man who doesn't need to validate her, who respects her, but doesn't pedestal her, he stands out. He flips the entire dynamic because now she's wondering about him. What's going on in his head? Why isn't he trying harder? Why is he so damn composed? That tension, that imbalance, that subtle reversal of roles, it makes her chase. But here's the key. You can't fake that energy. You can't just pretend not to care while obsessing behind the scenes. You can't act unbothered while constantly checking your phone for her reply. She'll feel it. Because confidence without validation only works when it's genuine. When it comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. When you actually believe you're enough with or without her attention, this is where Stoicism becomes your foundation. A Stoic man doesn't need approval from others to feel grounded. He's not swayed by flattery or rejection. He's rooted in self-command. Marcus Aurelius put it like this: "It is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose." That's the mindset. You don't chase attention. You don't seek applause. You know your worth and you carry it in silence. Here's the crazy part. When you remove validation from the equation, your presence becomes more magnetic. Because now your energy feels rare, different, unpredictable. Women are used to men who fold the second they see beauty, who lose themselves trying to win her approval. But when you meet her beauty with grounded calm, when you appreciate her without worshiping her, she feels seen, not suffocated. Let me give you an example. One of my clients was stuck in a pattern. Every time he dated someone new, he'd smother them with attention. Daily texts, constant praise, always available. It worked at first, but within weeks, they'd lose interest. So we switched it up. He stopped offering compliments every day. He gave space. He let silence sit between interactions. He stopped giving validation unless it came from a place of presence, not need. The result, women started chasing him. Because now every bit of attention meant something. It wasn't expected. It wasn't performative. It was real. Confidence without validation isn't about being cold. It's about being centered. It's saying, "I see your value, but I know mine too." It's showing up fully, but not shrinking to win her. It's a calm stare, a slight smirk, a silence that says, "I like you. I don't need you." And that right there is irresistible because women don't just fall for a man's words, they fall for how they feel around him. And when she feels like she has to earn your energy, she values it more. So if you've ever seen a woman light up when you stopped over-validating, if you've ever felt her chase harder when you said less, drop it in the comments. Confidence doesn't chase. And stay with me because next we're breaking down the one thing that amplifies this power even more: your ability to walk away at any time. Number 7. Presence over performance wins. 7. Presence over performance wins. Let's cut through the noise. In a world full of men, trying to impress the one who's simply present always stands out. Here's what I mean. Most guys go into performance mode when they're around women. They crack jokes non-stop, tell wild stories, flex achievements, act like a highlight reel of what they think women want. But here's the truth. She doesn't fall in love with the man who performs the best. She falls in love with the man who makes her feel seen. And that only happens when you're fully present. You see, when you're trying to impress someone, your attention is on yourself. How am I coming across? Did she laugh at that? Is she bored? But when you're present, your attention is on her. You're not calculating. You're there fully, quietly, grounded, and she feels it. She feels the difference between a man trying to entertain her and a man who is with her. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean being passive. It means being engaged, steady, and tuned in without seeking a reaction. That's the kind of presence that makes her feel like time slows down, like she can relax into the moment, like she's not being analyzed or tested, she's just being. And in that space, emotional walls start to melt. Now, from a psychological standpoint, presence reduces anxiety and builds trust. When someone senses that you're not distracted, not planning your next move, not playing a role, they feel safe, they feel connected. And in Stoicism, this kind of presence is everything. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." A Stoic man doesn't perform for approval. He embodies calm focus. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He lets things unfold. He doesn't need a reaction. He's already centered. Here's where it gets powerful. When you drop performance and step into presence, you become unpredictable in the best way. Because most women are used to men trying to win them, trying to say the perfect thing, trying to be something more. But when she's in front of a man who just is unapologetically, that energy becomes magnetic. It's rare. It's grounded, and it's deeply attractive. I had a client once who couldn't stop cracking jokes on dates. He was funny, but women didn't stick around. He thought humor was his strength. Turns out it was a shield. He was afraid of silence, afraid of being boring, afraid of letting his real self sit in the room. So we worked on slowing down, on listening deeply, on showing up without needing to perform. His next date, the woman leaned in and said, "You make me feel calm." And that right there, that's it. Because when she feels calm around you, safe, unhurried, unrushed, that's when the real attraction begins. So, how do you build presence? Start by mastering stillness. Breathe deeper. Talk slower. Let silences sit without rushing to break them. Look her in the eyes, not to dominate, but to connect. When you speak, speak with intention. Don't say things just to fill space. Say things that carry weight. Drop the need to impress. Replace it with the desire to connect. You're not there to win her. You're there to experience the moment, to be with her, not above her, not beneath her, with her. Because in that space of non-performance, she gets curious. She leans in. She feels like she's meeting the real you. And that's the guy she remembers. If you've ever dropped the act and saw her respond to your stillness, drop a comment. Presence wins. And stay locked in because next we're talking about the one thing that intensifies this presence even more, being completely okay without her. Number 8, silence is more powerful than persuasion. Let's be real. 8. Silence is more powerful than persuasion. Most men talk too much, especially when they feel like they're losing a woman. They over-explain. They try to convince. They chase with words. And in doing so, they lose the one thing that could have saved them. Silence. Here's what most guys don't get. The more you try to persuade her, the less she feels you're in control. When she pulls back and you rush to ask why. When she gets distant and you send paragraph texts trying to make it right. When she says she's not sure and you go into sales pitch mode. You're communicating one thing. I need this more than you do, and nothing kills attraction faster. But silence does something else. Silence says, I don't chase uncertainty. I respect myself too much to beg for attention. If you need time, take it. I'm good either way. And that hits differently. It creates space. It builds tension. It forces her to reflect because silence is not passive. It's powerful. It's not avoidance. It's restraint. From a Stoic lens, this is emotional discipline. It's choosing your response, not reacting from fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." We can take that even further. Sometimes the best answer to confusion, disrespect, or distance is still silence. Because in silence, you're not trying to win her back. You're letting reality speak, and that's more persuasive than any argument. Let me give you a real-world scenario. A woman starts pulling away. She gets cold, distant, less responsive. Most men, they panic. They double text. They call. They ask, "What's wrong? Did I do something?" It's understandable, but it rarely works. Now imagine a different response. She starts fading and you stay silent. You don't reach out. You don't chase. You don't try to fix anything. You stay composed, grounded, unbothered. That silence, it echoes in her mind. She starts wondering, did he lose interest? Why isn't he fighting for me? Did I just push away a man who actually respected himself? Suddenly, the emotional frame has flipped. Now she's questioning. She's reflecting. She's feeling the void. Because when you don't try to talk her back into attraction, you become a man she has to come back to on her own. That's real power. Now, silence doesn't mean stonewalling. It doesn't mean punishing. It means knowing when words are no longer useful. It means stepping back to let her feel the contrast between your presence and your absence. Because here's the paradox. The man who can walk away silently is often the one she chases hardest. That silence becomes a mirror. It shows her what she's losing. Not because you told her, but because she felt it. It's the ultimate test of composure. Most guys fold under pressure. They can't hold the tension. But the Stoic man, he understands. If it's real, it won't need convincing. If it's meant, it won't require begging. If she truly values him, his silence will say more than his words ever could. So if you're in a place where someone is unsure about you, don't fill that space with desperate words. Hold the frame. Hold your peace. Hold your power. Because the men she forgets are the ones who tried to explain their worth. The ones she remembers are the ones who never had to. If you've ever stayed silent when you could have chased and saw her come back, drop a comment. Silence spoke louder, and keep watching, because in the next part we'll uncover how choosing yourself over her is what truly locks in her desire. Number 9. Standards trigger desire. Stendhal's trigger desire. Let's be honest. Every guy says he has standards, but the moment he's around a woman he likes, he bends. He compromises. He tolerates behavior he would never accept from anyone else. And guess what? She senses it. And when she sees that your standards were just talk, the desire fades fast. Because here's the truth. A man's standards are his spine. They show whether he values himself or not. They tell her whether she can trust his leadership, his judgment, his masculinity. Women may test boundaries, but they're wired to desire the man who holds them. Not with anger, not with ego, but with quiet, steady certainty. The man who says that doesn't work for me and means it, even if she's beautiful, even if it means walking away. Because real standards aren't situational, they're personal, and they show up in the small things. When you don't tolerate flaky communication, when you don't chase after disrespect, when you don't accept drama just because you're attracted, that's when she feels something different. Respect, admiration, curiosity, because you've suddenly become a rare breed, a man who doesn't need to be chosen to know his worth. Now, this doesn't mean being rigid or controlling. It's not about domination. It's about direction. Standards are how you shape your world. They protect your peace. They filter out chaos, and they signal that if she wants access to your life, it's going to mean something. This is where Stoicism comes in strong. A Stoic man lives by principles, not impulse. He doesn't chase every desire. He filters his emotions through reason. He knows what matters and what corrupts that clarity. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly." In other words, get clear on what you value and don't betray that for attention, approval, or pleasure. Let me give you a real-life contrast. Two men date the same woman. The first bends over backward. He adjusts his whole life for her, cancels plans, ignores red flags, tells himself relationships take sacrifice. The second, he's kind, present, but he doesn't move his boundaries. When she shows up late without a word, He doesn't scold her. He just says, "I don't do disrespect." And he leaves. Guess who stays on her mind? Exactly. Because women don't obsess over the men who give everything. They obsess over the men who require something, not because they're arrogant, but because they respect themselves. Here's a truth that most guys miss. Standards create sexual tension. When she knows that you desire her but won't tolerate being treated like a backup plan, it lights something up in her. It triggers her to invest, to calibrate, to elevate her own behavior, not out of fear, but out of respect for your energy, because deep down she wants to earn her place. She wants to feel like she chose you, but that you also chose her. Not out of desperation, but out of alignment. Standards create that dynamic. They build a frame where desire can grow organically through polarity, not performance. So ask yourself, where have you been too lenient? Where have you accepted less because you were afraid to lose her? Where have you let attraction override self-respect? Now, flip it. What if the next time something felt off, you didn't explain, argue, or try to fix it? You just stood firm in your value and let her decide whether she wanted to meet you there. That kind of energy that's unforgettable. And if you've ever held your standard and felt her desire shift instantly, drop a comment. Standards change everything. Stay tuned, because in the final part of this series, we're breaking down what really makes a woman fall hard. The rare moment when she realizes she can't figure you out. Number 10. She falls hardest for the man. 10. She falls hardest for the man who can walk away. Who can walk away. Here's the paradox that catches most men off guard. The man who can leave is often the one she never wants to lose. Sounds backward, right? But it's one of the deepest truths in male-female dynamics. And it all comes down to one word: leverage. Most guys give it away the second they fall for a woman. They overcommit, overexplain, overinvest. And in doing so, they send a message whether they realize it or not. My happiness depends on you choosing me. And when a woman feels that when she knows you won't walk no matter what, the tension vanishes, the mystery dies, the power balance shifts and not in your favor. But the man who can walk away, who values himself enough to leave when something feels off, who would like her but doesn't need her, that man is unforgettable because his presence never feels guaranteed. His attention is not a given, it's earned. And that kind of energy, it keeps her guessing. It keeps her invested. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't about playing games. This is about knowing your value so well that no relationship, no matter how beautiful or tempting, can shake your foundation. It's about being centered in you. And when you bring that energy into a relationship, everything changes. She starts to self-reflect more. She checks her own behavior. She respects your boundaries without you having to demand it, because she knows if she pushes too far, if she disrespects your core, if she stops showing up fully, you'll leave. Not dramatically, not to punish, but with quiet certainty, because your peace means more to you than her approval. This is where Stoicism hits hard. A Stoic man doesn't cling. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase what's slipping away. He lives by principles. He lets go when something violates his truth, and he walks away, not out of ego, but out of alignment. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." That includes craving love, approval, or attention so badly that you abandon your own self-respect. The man who can walk away. He's never poor in spirit. He's rich in self-worth. He's wealthy in inner peace. He's unshakable. And ironically, that's exactly what makes a woman fall harder, because now she knows you're not replaceable. You're not one of those guys who sticks around no matter how she acts. You have options. You have clarity. You have strength. She can't manipulate that. She can't predict that. And she sure as hell can't control it. And in that space of healthy detachment, a powerful thing happens. she starts to earn you, not because you demanded it, but because your presence requires it. This is why women fall for the rare ones, the men who don't fold, the ones who stand up quietly and say, "I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to connect. But if that's not what you want, I'll leave with dignity intact." And the moment you show her that you can walk, not because you're cold, but because you're clear, that's when she looks at you differently. That's when she sees a man she can trust. Because if you can walk away from her, you won't abandon yourself. And that, ironically, is what makes her fall the hardest. Not your charm, not your looks, not even your attention, but your freedom. Because freedom means you're there by choice, not out of fear, not out of need, not because you don't have options, but because you chose her anyway. And there's nothing more powerful than that. Conclusion. And that's it. If you've made it this far, you're not like most men. You're the kind of man who thinks deeper, who chooses clarity over chaos, who doesn't just want a relationship. You want self-mastery, respect, and something real. That's what we're building here. This channel isn't for men who chase, it's for men who lead. So, if that's you, subscribe, turn on notifications, join the Stoic Brotherhood. Inside our members' community, we go even further. Real strategies, private lessons, Stoic mindsets that rewire how you handle women, pressure and power. You want to level up. This is the place. I appreciate your time, your focus, and your discipline to sit through all 10 parts. Remember, she doesn't fall for the loudest man in the room. She falls for the man who lives by his standards, who holds the silence, and who chooses himself first. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.